let's talk about eyebrow colors while we're on the subject of premixed paints. To my knowledge, there are at least 3 premixed eyebrow colors. Brow brown, which we already saw in the starter kit. Brow blonde, which the name suggests you would use to paint blonde eyebrows. And ethnic brow. All of these are pretty nice to have on hand when you're painting hair, eyebrows, or eyelashes. So I will demonstrate them for you so that you can decide whether you would like to include these in your palette. The brow brown you've already seen, and as I've already explained, it has a tendency to turn orange on vinyl. So use a little bit of ultramarine blue to nip that in the blood. Brow blonde is interesting. It's more of a light brown than a blonde, because what is blonde really? I mean, it's got hints of yellow in it, it's got hints of white in it, and this is still technically brown, so I think it's a nice color to have when you're painting hair. It's nice to use different layers and different colors to add more dimension and sort of a 3D effect to your work. So, it's probably worth having, but I wouldn't, paint a whole head with it and say, yeah, the baby's blonde, because you really want to add hints of yellow and hints of gold and hints of white if you're trying to paint blonde hair. And then the last one is the ethnic brow, which is actually a pretty robust color for painting hair. It's nice and dark, and it has less of that orangey effect to it, so if you're an avid eyebrow painter, you just might want to use ethnic brow instead of brow brown, that's hard to say, even if your baby is not quote-unquote ethnic. So those are the 3 eyebrow colors that you may or may not want to buy. The last premix color that I will submit for your consideration is the Creases Mixture. Very tempting to purchase. I do not use this color, which is why the jar is still full, because I find that it has a little too much brown in it for my taste. So I make my own Creases color using a mixture of red and ultramarine blue that I like to call the dirty purple. I also use my custom blushing color when I paint creases. So I found that I like my colors better than this premix color. And during the Reborn with Me series, I will be demonstrating the custom color rather than this premix. It's just very, it's too brown for me. It's really too brown for me. I like to have a nice rosy purple in my creases. This is a very brown purple in the creases, which makes them very dark. What this is good for is darkening areas that you want to be really, really dark. So the nostrils, inside the nostrils, inside the ear, this color is great because you can get a lot of pigment in a little bit of time, and it looks very nice in those areas. But in terms of doing my wrinkles and the creases between the fingers and toes, this is not the color that I go to. So yep, nostrils, ears, awesome. Creases, not so great, but it's really up to you if you want to try it and use it on your doll. Another color that I keep handy is actually the authentic Reborn, and this is the clay match paint specifically for super sculpey. And if you're interested in making clay modifications to your vinyl, if you sculpt your heads and then attach them to vinyl arms and legs, this is going to be really helpful for you. This comes from the Secret Doll Company, and they sell not only Super Sculpey, but various other brands of clay match paint. And there's a very thorough demonstration of this paint on CustomDollBaby.com as well as on my YouTube channel, so I highly suggest that you check that out if you're interested in clay modifications or just want to see what this clay match paint looks like. It's very interesting stuff. Now that we've reviewed all of the pre-mixed colors, let's talk about some basic colors, specifically your neutralizing colors. So on CustomDollBaby.com and on my YouTube channel, there is a video that goes into detail on how to neutralize a vinyl doll kit. Neutralizing a kit, the basic idea is that it came in a color other than what you want it to be. So the Real Effect kits, for example, tend to be a little orange for my taste. Secret kits, for example, tend to be a little pink for my taste. It's really a matter of getting the vinyl to as close as possible to your base coat color. So there is a neutralizing video that I highly suggest that you take a look at if you feel like you might need to neutralize your kits. In the meantime, I'm going to demonstrate some of the colors that would be valuable to have if you find yourself in need of neutralizing. So this is Stylo Blue. This is a super pigmented, very, very bright blue. If you thought ultramarine blue was bright, this stuff's going to blow your mind, and I'm not exaggerating. Stylo Blue. A very rich, very dark blue. Very, very, very bright blue. So when you're doing your neutralizing layers, you're going to want to water them down or dilute them significantly with your odorless paint thinner because it's very, very bright. Opposite of blue on the color wheel is orange, so if your doll is looking too orange, this is when you would want to do a wash of Stylo Blue. The next color that we're going to look at is Stylo Green. That's for your pink kits. So if you have a kit that's looking too pink, too red, too rosy, or maybe you've been painting the kit for a while and you made it too pink, too red, and too rosy, Stylo Green is here to the rescue. It will help you to tone down those pink and red tones because green is opposite red on the color wheel. So it'll get you away from that red, pink, bright, bright color and get you closer to your more neutral peach vinyl. So there's Stylo Green. Similar to Stylo Green is the mint. And there are other uses for mint that I'm not off the top of my head familiar with, but I just thought it was interesting and I bought some because I'm kind of a paint junkie, if you hadn't figured that out yet. So yeah, this stuff is like pristine. I don't think I've ever actually used it. But this would also be a sort of neutralizing color for you. It is also a green, but it's got quite a bit of yellow and brown in it. So maybe you just want to do that. I think you can do it for an underwash. So some people paint the inside of the vinyl before they paint the outside. I think you can use the mint for that. I think you can use it around the eyes and nose and those sort of funny colored, heavily veined, very thin-skinned areas on the doll. But you know, it's just really cool color to have, so something you might consider. But these are primarily used for neutralizing your vinyl, and there are definitely some other applications that you might consider. Let's discuss some more basic Genesis colors that are not necessarily going to be in your 5 basic colors kit. A very important color to have on hand is the Deoxys purple. This is a color that you will need in order to Reborn with me, and it's a very popular mottling color for a lot of artists. It's a beautiful purple, and a lot of artists will actually just use it straight for the mottling, so they won't mix it with anything, but just fresh out of the jar. I mean, of course, dilute it, use this as a mottling color. It's very pretty. The next color that is essential to have, that's a basic color that you will also need to Reborn with me, is the Pyrrole Red. We already talked about the Genesis Red, which does come in the basic set. Pyrrole Red, as you can see just from looking at the jar, is a much darker color. I use Pyrrole Red a lot for my blushing color, for my creases color. It's just a really lovely way to saturate any of the reds that you're working with. So a lot of my red mixtures will have a combination of Pyrrole Red and Genesis Red in them. Another essential color to have, of course, is black. You have titanium white, you should also have black for saturating any color. Some artists, have even used black to paint their hair and eyebrows using black instead of a brown. Black is a really great way to saturate your browns. It's not going to take the orange out, but it will make them darker. So that's something to consider. I don't know why I'm going to demonstrate this because we all know what black looks like, but whatever, here we go. Gotten so much into the habit now. As you would expect, it is black. Again, great for saturating your color and making it look darker. Here are the last three basic Genesis colors that I'm going to demonstrate for you today. Now, we already talked about the burnt umber that is part of the 5 colors kit. It's a nice brown to have on hand. Now, if you are trying to make African American, Latin American, Indian, Native American, biracial, ethnic colored dolls, maybe the Flesh O 2 through 7 just isn't doing it for you anymore, you may consider making your own complexions. To do that, in addition to the burnt umber, you'll also need to acquire raw sienna and raw umber. Raw sienna I use not only for African American dolls, but also for my Caucasian dolls because it's beautiful. So this is, I guess it's kind of similar to the color that I am. It's a golden color brown, more golden brown. And I actually mixed this with Flesh 08 to create my Peachy Keen complexion mixture because it just really warms the skin and gives it a beautiful glow. So this is raw sienna. Sometimes I'll do what I call a gold wash. So I'll take some raw sienna, hit it with a touch of yellow, and actually wash over my biracial or African American or Caucasian complexion to really warm up the skin and bring out those gold undertones. Because I'm a very gold person and I'm a huge fan of gold undertones. So I highly recommend that you acquire raw sienna. I use it a lot in my recipes in places that you least expect to find it. So very good to have on hand. A good darkening brown, a nice dark rich brown, is raw umber. It's darker than burnt umber. I guess whatever an umber is, it gets lighter when you cook it. This is a good shading mixture. This is a good color to saturate your hair coloring, eyebrows, eyelashes, hairline, things like that. And it's good for darkening your complexions. So nice dark brown to have on hand when you're doing some more complex skin detail. And then for your reference, we're going to look at the burnt umber again so you can compare. So these three I highly recommend if you're planning on doing biracial African American dark and rich complexion babies. These will help you a lot creating your own custom palettes and creating a diverse range of complexions.